Former President Festus Mogae recently visited Australia to attend the AIDS conference that was held in Melbourne in June 2014. Before the conference, Mr. Mogae attended a reception organized by the Botswanese community in Melbourne to welcome him in the country. Over 100 people, many from Botswana and others from different parts of Africa and Australia, came together at the reception hall of Windsor Hotel in Melbourne CBD to meet a man who is widely respected both in his native Botswana as well as internationally for his leadership legacy, his determination to fight AIDS in his country, as well as simply for his humility as a human being. There was quite a lot of excitement in the room. And the fire of the excitement was fueled by the great entertainment organized on the occasion. For many Africans, such an event is quite exceptional because, as sad as it may sound, many Africans are not used to seeing former presidents mingling with ordinary people like this. Most African presidents either die in power of old age or they are assassinated. This former president is incredibly humble, warm, and accessible. Mr. Mogae was president of Botswana for 10 years, from 1998 to 2008 when he stepped down from power. He was educated in Oxford, England, was awarded the Légion d'honneur by French President Nicolas Sarkozy for his exemplary leadership. He also won the 2008 Prize for Achievement in Africa Leadership from Ibrahim Ba Foundation. As usual, we were there to capture a bit of this almost historic moment, and we got to interview our very first president on AMA. President Mogae, welcome to Australia.
Thank you.
We are very pleased to see you here, and we know you are visiting for AIDS. To tell us about your role in the AIDS movement.
Well, I was a president at the time when my country went through a difficult period, and so I interacted with health professionals and negotiated with pharmaceutical companies to provide ARVs, treatment and care to all Botswana who needed it free of charge. And I also tested myself and encouraged people to test and seek treatment. And so I have since then collaborated with UNAIDS. After I retired, I formed a group of former presidents calling ourselves Champions for an HIV-free generation. And we visited a number of our fellow African countries to meet the presidents, members of parliament, ministers, members of the press, labor organizations, and civil society to encourage them to continue engaged with their population regarding AIDS prevention, including prevention of mother-to-child transmission, but emphasizing the fact that in the long term we cannot afford expensive treatment, and therefore they should prioritize prevention.
And how has that been going?
Well, we are still continuing. It's a long haul. It's a long haul. The problem is that some people, now that there are not many dramatic deaths are still taking place. But because they are not as dramatic as in the past, people behave as if AIDS is something that was there and it has gone. And we are trying to say to them, no, it hasn't gone. For us to get rid of it, we have to continue engaged, advising people and providing advice, but also providing treatment and care, and also not discriminating against anybody, and being tolerant and not stigmatizing and people, including people with the so-called the special populations like sex workers and same-sex relations.
That's good. Now, you've had a chance here today to meet the Botswanese diaspora community in Melbourne. And I'm going to ask you a question about the role of the diaspora in helping Africa.
Well, the role of the diaspora is that they should remember where they have come from. Those who are working here and have relatives back in Africa, they should, we can appreciate their remittances. Those who are studying, some of them should go back and try to help there. And so whatever they are doing, whether they go back or whether they prefer to work here, they should remember us in Africa as a continent, and we can do with the assistance, financial or otherwise, of all our people living in the developed countries.
One last question about the Africa's economic success. You are a model of political and economic leadership, and today the story in Africa is changing. There's a lot of economic success, and in some media outlet in the West, that story is not being told quite enough. What can you tell like in Australia here, where people get only mostly negative news about Africa, that there's a new story coming out of Africa, and that story needs to be told?
Yeah, well, the majority of sub-Saharan African countries, for a change, are scoring very impressive economic growth rates. In fact, we are growing faster than most countries in the world. So that Africa, for instance, both last year and this year and next year, will achieve a higher growth rate than Europe and North America. So that's good. That's what is happening in Africa. That's why everybody now is talking about Africa rising.
And what can you tell the Australian investors in terms of going to Africa and taking advantage of the opportunities?
They are welcome. That opportunities are there. We have always said we have minerals and other natural resources, and we are open for business. But of course, on terms and conditions that will have to be acceptable to us.
All right. Your last message to the Botswanese community here, the broader African Australian community?
What they are doing, they should give their best. Whether they are if they are students, they should work hard at their studies and pass well. If they are working, they should work well and make progress for themselves and their families, both here and at home.
I'm here in Melbourne, Windsor Hotel, where the Botswanese community is welcoming the former president, Festus Mogae. And as you can see, it's quite a live and vibrant event here where people are very excited to meet this former president who's has a long history of excellence in leadership, both in terms of economic success as well as political leadership. And the whole of the Botswanese community today is here to spend a bit of time with Mr. Mogae, and they've asked him questions and he's answered, and he's now mingling with the people, having a bit of a fun. That's what you're seeing here. So Africa Media is here to try to capture this moment for all of you. Claude Shirati from Africa Media Australia.